And the most publicly visible aspect of what I do is our work at Pronovics with the content, exploring the domain of developer portals, and also my work at the Developer Portal Awards, where I am organizing and facilitating the evaluations with the jury. What I'm bringing you today is a lightweight introduction to the work we do with my colleagues from the user experience research and the professional services teams. So I will not pretend that I know it all myself alone. What I will do is the following. I will introduce us to a model we use for assessments, show you an example snapshot assessment of one of the tier 1 banks in Europe, which I will not name because that isn't the point here. I just wanted to bring a real example and show you where and how we can expand for improvement from there, should you be up for the challenge. I'm going to mute the presentation, so please send me a message if you will need me to see it. Developer portals are often built with a lot of care, rigor, and deep technical expertise. When we review them, we always hope to see teams investing heavily in high-quality documentation, well-designed APIs, and thoughtful developer experiences. And yet, even with these strong engineering foundations, many developer portals struggle to gain traction, and these are lost or stalling. And in many cases, this has little to do with the quality or the code of the capabilities of the assets. Instead, the challenge lies in how effectively the portal communicates business value and compliance beyond the purely technical audience. Because a developer portal sits in an intermediary, somewhat awkward space. Portals were originally built only for engineering, but it is more and more consumed directly or indirectly by evaluating buyer teams. And in such an evaluation phase, the portal directly signals the maturity of the integrations on offer. So to put it differently, a developer portal isn't just a developer experience artifact. It's a commercial surface, it's a trust signal, and often the first step in a revenue motion. Through our work at Pronovics, as well as with the Developer Portal Awards, we have observed a set of common and often unintentional oversights that introduce friction into buyers' evaluations, slow down commercial momentum, and quietly erodes trust. We have been involved in the methodical betterment of portals for many years. And at this stage, portals serve so many needs that just a dozen of best practices is of little use in a complex enterprise situation. So we have built a diagnostic framework based on the observable practices, such that we can methodically surface where your current practices and available content objects help or hinder specific technical and commercial outcomes. The original first version of this presentation a few months ago, given by my colleague Kathleen de Roo, was titled, "What's a Better Developer Portal?" And that is because often the vague driving need we meet is to have a better developer portal. So if you run a quick search, Google search, any search, on what's a better developer portal, then you are going to get a too short or too long, that's why I turned it to emphasize how long this can be, a too long washing list of best practices and a few hints on where to start. And I can almost guarantee that it will refer to a known handful of developer portals that were circulated as the best for many years now, and with good reason. But for which of these examples, which of these directly apply to your budget, your expertise available in-house, and the expectations on your market? So to put this more concrete, the Stripe developer portal was not developed overnight, but over a decade, and with a really, really strong focus and a lot of money behind that developer portal. Now, as a lot has been written about developer experience in particular, and a large body of that you can find on the Pronovics blog, you are likely to get that aspect covered very well in your Google search. Other areas, not so much. or they will be very opinionated, but without remarking on why they are opinionated. But drilling down to the qualifiers and the results, you will get words like clear, comprehensive, intuitive, frictionless, and so on and so forth. And this is the irony of professionalism, that the more you know about your own APIs, the less you are able to see what is intuitive or frictionless to a user who is outside of your API team or organization. We see this over and over in our experience, that the outsider professional's perspective and critique is irreplaceable to inside teams. And what my work has taught me with the Developer Portal Awards jurors and interviews with Developer Portal teams is that any portal team really needs external validation, independent benchmarking, and an accelerator or a catalyst. Most teams are doing the right things to the extent that they have resources for, but they need an objective assistance in prioritization, at least, to prevent wasted efforts. So instead of just asking, what are the best practices so we can just copy them? I would suggest it is a more valuable starting point to ask, what does our developer portal currently provide and signal, and to whom? And I see the role of a snapshot assessment, first and foremost, to help you champion portal maturity to leadership and to identify which are the highest leverage gaps that are hard to see sometimes from the inside. And of course, at a tactical execution level, it is the specific practices and activities that need to be put into place. If you've been following our team's work and publications, you probably know that we have been working with a maturity model for a long time now. But in the beginning, this was a thinking and planning framework. It was a mental model that helped us conversations with our clients. Meanwhile, in the past year, we decided to list and catalog what we recognize as practices in the domain of developer portals, and then organize them into a system that allows for a quick diagnose to get as closely as possible to what is going on a portal, depict a specific situation, identify gaps, and come up with the next possible steps for improvement. Now, what we have developed in research terms would be called a focus area maturity model. And if you consider developer portals not just static publishing tools, but as socio-technical systems, then what we are analyzing is a nonlinear, time-varying system, which is complex and sensitive to initial conditions. It's going to show butterfly effects. But to have an analysis of gradients, we are going to use linear solvers, and we are going to take a snapshot in time. If you Google for maturity models, mostly you're going to find something that shows on what level the maturity of something is, usually up to 5 or 6 levels. What we want here is more of a continuum. And the overview, as I will show you, has its uses, but the actionable insights come from the details. What we want is a clear iterative path to improve maturity for a specific purpose in well-defined areas. So let me introduce you to the lens with which we're going to do this snapshot. The operational excellence and the business alignment are the engines driving a portal's success. They are often internal and invisible. In a digital ecosystem, these internal forces are only valuable if they produce tangible results for the technical and business users. So we are going to consider the hybrid user experience, which is the observable practices with verifiable external evidence on the developer portal, as the imprints of the underlying business and operational maturity. This is going to be our lens for the snapshot assessment, looking into the quality of everything that you expose to customers, your consumers. And again, ironically, in some of the functional areas, which were until very recently considered to be explored to their full potential, we thought this couldn't get better. This is where adjustments are most rapidly needed to be implemented for 2 reasons. One, because portals have to serve hybrid personas, and 2, the semantic breadcrumbs are crucial to be present, to not get lost between your own domain model and that of the AI search engines. And for these 2 reasons, I'm going to also show you a sneak peek into what we're cooking. This is where we are taking the diagnostic model right now. It's in our kitchen as I speak. To help transition your portal from a technical to a commercial offer, we apply two more critical filters in the assessment. These areas determine if the portal is capable of exposing solutions to humans and to AI agents alike. One of these is the business readiness layer, where we evaluate solution practices. For example, if the portal exposes use cases and solutions rather than just raw APIs. This involves checking for a solution layer that sits above the technical documentation. Many of these aspects are in their proto form already in the experience bundle that we are assessing, but we are currently working on spotlighting these, because what we see is that this area is where most portals have a significant quality collapse. The other area we are spotlighting is AI visibility and agent accessibility. So strategically, dating content used to serve as a business filter to date, to prioritize high-value enterprise leads over smaller clients or to protect highly regulated, sensitive logic. While this helps in lead generation and in partner-specific targeting, excessive gating is a barrier to entry, often counterproductive to broad adoption and market visibility. This is an area that is already part of the user experience as we evaluate it, but we are going to spotlight these practices in the imminent future because it is a critical business risk if agents or an AI search is not finding your offerings. So back to the topic. Let me take you on the journey of the assessment of a bank's developer portal and explain what is happening in the background and how we can help to take the next step towards growth using this framework. The assessment that I'm going to show is that of the external developer portal of a large, globally operating banking institution with a presence across multiple regions and markets. This organization supports a broad range of regulated financial services and enables third-party developers and partners to integrate with its platforms through secure APIs. As such, the external developer portal plays a critical role in partner onboarding, API discovery, documentation, and access management, while operating under the strict security, compliance, and reliability expectations typical of a global financial institution. The portal in question is an excellent example of one built with a lot of care, finesse, and expertise. It's a really good one. And of course, historically, it was motivated by the PSD 1 and 2 directives. However, now is a time for an update in its potential. Let me show you how we can tell where. Through 3 steps, we are going to convert qualitative observations into actionable data. First of all, we're going to map out a user's high-level goals through 6 focus areas: discovery, decision-making, onboarding, go live, maintenance and troubleshooting, and community. These are the stages of a typical direct user journey. Second, we analyze over 24 enablers, which address the user's high-level goals, and we measure more than 130 practices or activities that make these enablers work. For example, an enabler could be visual harmony, in which we have practices such as consistent look and feel and content-first design. The scoring system allows to get a high-level overview, but it will also allow us to drill down. Additionally, we can do a benchmarking step in which the portal's current implementation is, for example, measured against either a best-in-class standard or a group of best-in-class portals or competitors of your choosing. And in our example, based on the steps that I have just mentioned, if we conduct a snapshot assessment, then we create a detailed report, and then let me introduce you to some parts of it. This is a bird's eye view of the 6 focus areas of user experience as I listed them, and the aggregate maturity scoring for the publicly accessible aspects of this example developer portal. What such a rendering brings into focus are the shortcomings in some areas and the relatively high performance in others. It is much more constructive, I think, though, to go deeper to the enabler level. The enabler scores point to a strong technical foundation, but weaker commercial and user trust functions. In our example, onboarding is well supported in that API access and testing is great. And the practices enabling go live are also in place, although further improvement is needed. However, the onboarding experience could be much better, and there are some key depths detected there. The portal also excels in initial discovery and go live essentials. However, there are other business driving and confidence building enablers that are only in the foundational stage of maturity, at least in a non-logged in journey, which can pose major obstacles to evaluation. And I keep saying the external portal, obviously not the internal portal, and what is visible. And this used to be, I used to be excusing ourselves like, oh, we can only see what we can see. But at this point in time, this is important because you know that a lot of evaluators may never set foot on your portal. So if they can't see it with the search engine, it's not there. Some of the core ecosystems in our example bank are lagging. Search practices could be much better on the site, and there is an opportunity to work on community and engagement enablers. There are several marketing and business development practices that could also be brought in. Going further, because these aggregate results are not enough. So how do you get to actionable steps that can be put on a roadmap and executed by one team or a team of teams? So here we are drilling down in stage 3 to the specific practices in each enabling area. These practices are the tactical levers required to solve the strategic friction points. We are going to suggest a practice level roadmap. Here you see an example that focuses on resolving zero score practices that create friction and block commercial engagement. This roadmap is now at a good level of detail to discuss prioritization and set tasks for immediate execution. In the case of this bank, priority number 1 group addresses the missing commercial transparency and the broken developer workflow tool, namely search problems. And resolving these issues is necessary for business conversion and basic site functionality as well. Priority number 2 addresses deficiencies that break user trust during live integration and prevent long-term commitment. Furthermore, we in the report also suggest specific practices to this bank to expand the audience and foster community resilience. Building advanced tools, namely multi-language and downloadable SDKs for developers, is also one route for betterment. Now, do these practices actually resolve business problems? Because those are often systemic issues, and they can become sort of a hyper object for insiders, and they can stare themselves blind on this. And this is where an external catalyst can help address what is the crux here. So in our example, lack of a clear business model, no publicly available pricing or solution alternatives. This is not a content failure. This is a sales enablement failure. By implementing these specific practices, the organization takes a good step in resolving the evaluation and procurement blockage that often stalls integrations. Resolving operational opacity with, in our example, a status page, a change log, a roadmap, these don't just improve developer experience, it can reduce support costs by deflecting them in the first place. And on the long run, if you think it can mitigate liability, like for audit trails. In the example, I showed the suggestions for an active site-wide search and the context-aware search. Removing artificial or legacy walls in the integrations documentation helps to create a unified interface to the organization. And such a unified interface is crucial so that your prospects don't get tripped up by your organization's internal complexities. And while we were talking with my colleagues about how to make this webinar the most useful for you, the obvious answer was that beyond the excerpts from an example assessment, I would show some typical high-level issues that we see overall. We could call this the state of the industry challenge. The following two gaps go beyond what you can solve with cosmetics or some quick tactical adjustments. These are issues that are bigger than what one talented employee could tackle, and yet it would benefit everyone in the organization. If you recognize your portal in the following problems, come talk to us. These are the areas that we are now focusing on to resolve for our clients. In discovery, portals generally score higher in the assessment, indicating those aspects are very good. However, important information to users or customers for decision-making is often hidden behind the login wall or may not exist even after you logged in. This is a very typical current state of affairs in banking developer portals. There are very good historical reasons for walling in such information, but now is a good time to reconsider. Potential partners will abandon the integration during the exploration phase because the complexity barrier is too high, and it leads to wasted business development efforts from your colleagues. One challenge teams often have is how to go beyond exposing APIs to developers and to expose these services as a recognizable use case, for example, a buyer team in an exploration and evaluation phase, and demonstrate business fit and value. Our assessments typically show that business discovery is not scoring high. The core APIs are discoverable, but the overall information structure is failing to guide the various users. With hybrid users emerging, and by hybrid users, I mean, for example, an AI persona being your direct visitor instead of the human person, or a business analyst is using a co-pilot to aid them in a lightweight fit check. So what is happening now, we cannot emphasize enough that an intuitive, machine-accessible, and clear portal with a well-defined documentation structure, clear taxonomy, and domain model of your business, with exhaustive, non-assuming documentation, it matters more than ever before. I'm going to quote the words of an awards juror so that you can never unhear this again. Assume nothing and explain everything. Another old but gold truth of UX is that people are different kinds of learners. We have our own preferred ways of exploring and processing new information. You need to balance just-in-time disclosure with the full freedom of choice. Differently put, there's some overlap here, but it is a broad challenge to align portals with the broader business goals of your organizations. To shift your portal from, for example, merely exposing data integrations to actively driving partner sales and cross-selling. The technical endpoint documentation, however spotless, and it has to be spotless, but it's not sufficient. This, as I said, it shouldn't be viewed as a documentation problem, but throughout your organization, it should be viewed as a sales enablement problem that can, however, be fundamentally supported on the content side. Almost all portals that we have seen show a lack in supporting the buyer persona's decision-making progress. Partners still lack the necessary business information, such as value propositions, clear pricing, comparisons, which they need to commit without lengthy conversations and hand-holding from pre-sales engineering. Internal sales and account managers also often cannot find their way on the portal, even though the portal should help them sell solutions. So figuring out a solution to these that takes care of all of that I have said in the last two slides, this is very hard. And at least in the beginning, an outside-in perspective might be the crux. To make sure to empathize with all your targeted users and all your involved internal teams to discover the hidden possibilities and also to stand out against your direct and indirect competitors. This is a strength that Pronovix as your partner can play on. We bring with us a full solution discovery framework to figure out who your real users are, what they need. And for this, we do stakeholder and client interviews, research, interactive prototyping, testing, iterating. Furthermore, to get your portal ready for the next growth level, we focus on an information architecture and adjusted workflows that support discovery and translate and generate user needs into solutions to answer your, okay, what's next question. And here's the shameless commercial cue. We are looking for pilot customers for building a new ingenious solution layer on top of your developer portal, specifically aimed at AI visibility and business fit evaluations. If you're interested, please take up contact with me. My email address is laura@pronovix.com, which is also on the next slide. I thank you for your attention, and this is where I'm going to end my teaser presentation. And if you're interested in a maturity assessment for your developer portal, you can scan the QR code or use the URL that Kati has also just put in the chat. And if you have any questions, I'm going to do my best to answer them or to put you into contact with the person who's the most suited to answer it. Mm.